going to be the biggest obstacle for the Celtics in their title? It was one day. One day. You get one day. What's the biggest obstacle in their title defense? A lot of options for you at Jones and Mego. You can vote. You can weigh in on the phones as well. Will it be keeping the core together? This is a long-term thing. I don't think – I keep hearing Gresh. I don't think they're going to have an issue keeping this core together this coming season. Like, the core is back. But longer term, can they keep this group together? Is it staying focused, the title defense? Can you stay hungry? The Nuggets won a championship. They brought most of their team back, most of the important players back. They couldn't win. We've seen other teams do that. This ties in with that as well, the NBA parity. You know, the league. We've seen 6 different champions. It is a pretty balanced league and has been a pretty balanced league. Or the CBA restrictions, second aprons and dumb stuff like that. You can vote at Jones and Mego. How'd you vote, Mego?
So I voted parity because to me, that's really the only thing that the Celtics can't control. You can only control what's happening with your team, making your team a positive environment where players want to stick around, and paying players to stick around, digging deep into that wallet and staying in the second apron and all of that stuff. As you said, the Celtics are the 6th different NBA champion in the last 6 seasons. The only other time that that's happened in NBA history was between 1974-75 and 1979-1980. The Celtics went on to win pretty big in the 80s after that, so maybe we'll see a stretch like that. Maybe the Celtics will emerge out of this time of great parity in the league to be the next dynasty. But I really think that's the only thing that they can't control. Like, that's the only excuse that I would give them, and I do expect them to repeat next year. The CBA restrictions, those actually hurt the teams that are trying to build and react.
Correct.
React to the way that you are now. You got the Porzingis deal done. You got the Drew extension done. Like, you got the major stuff done this past year. And so, yeah, you had to extend Derek White. That really shouldn't make that big of a difference for what you're able to do with the team next year. If you're in a position where you're crying about whether or not Sam Hauser is going to be back, then I don't think you really have that much confidence in this team if you think Sam Hauser is going to make or break it. So to me, it's really just about the parity in the league, and I still feel pretty confident that the Celtics can emerge over the next couple of years and overcome that.
Before I get to Arkan, a sidebar question. The parity in the league. 6 different titles. You mentioned the 70s. The 70s was awful for the NBA. Awful. I mean, that's why Bird and Magic were such a big deal in the 80s. Is the parity good for the league?
I don't think so. I look at that and look, I know it's a totally different media landscape and the way that consumers are watching games, and that you can be fans of teams on another coast and watch every single game if you're a psychopath and you wanted to. But at the same time, I think it's good to have really big recognizable names. And I think maybe some of what the league is struggling from right now is just that it's a time of transition. And it's a torch being passed from the Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Steph Curry era, where those guys are really fading out, to now, you know, you've had Giannis and Jokic, but I think you look at guys like Tatum, SGA, and Anthony Edwards, and those are players that people can get really excited about, but it's a time of transition, so it's a little weird. You want to see SGA and Tatum go against each other. You want to see Tatum and Jokic go against each other. I think you want these guys to emerge as really big names. They're already superstars, but superstars to a casual fan, not just superstars to NBA fans. Because they're already going to watch.
Before you answer the big question, Arkan, do you think parity's good for the league?
I do in small doses. I do think in small doses it can be a good thing. I think that it's something that gets other fan bases maybe involved that wouldn't in other situations. And I think when you get players to reach that level of being champions, that's better for the league in general. The more different players that get to be champions and get to be sort of marketed that way, I think is ultimately a good thing for the league. But if it's too much and it starts to cheapen the product and water it down a little bit because it's a new champion every year, and now everybody's a champion, and now there's no real difference between a superstar who's won and one who hasn't anymore. I think that's kind of watered down, maybe is the wrong way of putting it, but you know what I mean? That cheapens it a little bit. So I do think that in small doses, it's good to get more teams involved and it's good to get more players involved, but when it goes overboard, like it's starting to right now, I think it can be detrimental.
Like, is Patrick Mahomes bad for the NFL?
No, this is what I was just going to say. This is what I was just going to say. The NFL is excellent right now because the Chiefs are right on the heels of the Patriots. The NFL lucked out with that. Let me give you another example, like baseball. This came up like a week or two ago. I'm like, I don't even think I could name the last handful of champions in baseball in reverse order. I have the list up. I couldn't do it off the top of my head. Rangers, Astros, Braves, Dodgers, Nationals, Red Sox, Astros again, Cubs, Royals, like.
The Braves were 3 years ago?
Yeah, that's not good for baseball. And that's not baseball's biggest problem. And we're going to talk to Alex Cora coming up 20 minutes from now, manager of the Red Sox. He joins us every Wednesday. Baseball has a lot of issues. That's not their biggest issue, but it's on the list. The parity in baseball, different teams winning out of nowhere. We thought that would be good. We thought a luxury tax and like revenue sharing and stuff like that would be good for baseball. Too much Red Sox, too much Yankees. Wrong. The parity in baseball is killing baseball. And parity in basketball, I think, would be bad if it continued. I don't think it's going to continue because I'm with Mego. I think they repeat. I think they're a potential dynasty, a budding dynasty, is what I think. But they do have obstacles. Arkan, how'd you vote?
I voted staying focused, and I think that parity is a big part of it, and that's going to be something that they're going to have to stay focused in order to overcome. Same thing with keeping the core together. I think that that's going to be injuries and stuff. I think that's a decent one to vote for, too. But for me, it seems like the reason why this team came up short all the times that they did is because they had trouble staying focused, and we're in an era right now where it's very hard to repeat as champions. I mean, no one's done it in almost half a decade now, or over half a decade now. So I think that that's the thing. These are guys who are very, very focused on winning this one championship, and they all breathed a huge sigh of relief when it was over. And they have gone on this big victory tour and in your face, and you said we couldn't do it, and we did it, and blah, 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 blah. Is that something that now that they've done it, they're going to have the same hunger to do again? And I think that that's really the only thing that's in their way, them staying focused. There's going to be teams that superstars who team up together to try and beat them. I think there's no doubt that's going to happen. And I think there's going to be injuries to some of these core players. No doubt that's going to happen either. The CBA restrictions, I don't really focus on that because that's really just a funny way of saying, is the owner going to invest in the team? And he's already said that he's going to.
100%. That's garbage.
We already know that. We already know he's going to. So, yeah, for me, it's staying focused.
Okay, so I agree the way Mego put it on the CBA restrictions. Like, that's an impediment for teams that are trying to keep up with the Celtics.
Right.
The Celtics already have the team. They already have it locked in. And so, they can't sign a mid-level guy. Great. You won't get Jason Terry like they did in 2009 or 10 or whatever. Like, you're going to miss out on that level of player.
No Muscalas for you.
Sheed was another guy they brought in. Like, Rasheed Wallace is going to put him over the top. Those aren't the important players, okay? Oh, you got to match salary in a trade. All right, that's a bit of a headache. It's not that difficult. It's not that hard. It can be done. And so as long as the owner's willing to spend.
Say goodbye to P.J. Brown.
The CBA is just such nonsense. Oh, the parity in today's league. It's so hard to repeat because all of these restrictions. No, it's not. The Celtics had all those restrictions last year. They added Porzingis, they added Holiday with all these restrictions. So get out of my face with that. They're going to be fine. That's not an impediment. I don't really believe the NBA parity is an existing hurdle either. Like, who's really on their level in the league when we look at these teams? You sent all the odds earlier today, Arkan. I'll still give you Denver, but, like, they just played Dallas. They stink. I don't believe in Minnesota or OKC, barring some additions on those teams. So, like, who even is it? It's Denver and who else? I don't really see parity throughout the league. Keeping the core together, come talk to me in 3 or 4 years. You know, the bill is added up on Tatum. It's added up on Jaylen Brown. Now they got to make some hard decisions on who to keep around. Other guys want to get paid. Is Wick still going to be footing that bill in 3, 4, 5 years? The Warriors didn't even do that. Will Wick still be doing that? I don't know. Fair question. Not a question for this year. Not a question for next year's team. It's staying focused. 100%. And we see how hard it is to repeat. They're going to have the talent, assuming they have some health, and they don't even need full health. They just proved Porzingis can go down and they can win a title. So it's not about their talent level. I don't really even think it's about health, barring the caveat of like losing Tatum or Brown or somebody like that. That would tank any team. That's not specific to this team. Staying focused, staying hungry, staying on message. You know, in a weird way, Tatum not being NBA Finals MVP, Mego brought this up yesterday, maybe keeps him focused.